Thanks. As Michael mentioned, this is an organization. It's not a disorganized group of individuals. The Mexican Mafia was founded in 1957 in the California prison system. It was started with 13 individuals. And for the first 20 or so years of its existence, whenever anyone mentioned the name, there was always quotes around it. The newspapers would characterize it as the so-called Mexican Mafia, or the Mexican Mafia in quotes. No one really believed that such an organization existed, even law enforcement who were sort of facing it. Fast forward from 1957 until 1992. In 1992, the Mexican Mafia initiated probably the most significant initiative of any organized criminal group in this country's history. On the afternoon of September 18th, 1992, some 1,500 to 2,000 Hispanic street gang members began to assemble as if on an invisible queue at the football field at Elysian Park. If people who live in LA know that Elysian Park also happens to be the home of the Los Angeles Police Department Academy. And you'd have to wonder if it's insanity or some kind of hubris that would bring 15,000 known criminals out into the open in broad daylight to assemble and have essentially a gang summit within the very shadow of the Los Angeles Police Department Academy. And no pun intended, but law enforcement at that time in 1992, as recently as 1992, really didn't consider the Mexican Mafia as a significant threat. Some gang cops saw evidence of it on the street. They attributed a few crimes to it, but they never really saw it as an organization until that day in September 1992. They were literally caught flat-footed. Again, no pun intended. The fact that they could do this in broad daylight really started law enforcement scratching their heads about the power and influence of this group. Interestingly enough, that was not the only summit the Mexican Mafia launched in that period, in that September timeframe, September 1992. There were similar meetings that took place at the parking lot at the Los Angeles Coliseum, in parks in Orange County, in San Diego, in San Fernando Valley, and San Gabriel Valley. And each one of these meetings was held by a ranking member of the Mexican Mafia. The major initiative that on those meetings, the major policy initiative that the Mexican Mafia launched was what I characterize as the vertical integration of, for the first time, of a prison gang and street gangs. There were 3 items on the agenda at those meetings. The first item was that from now on, there would be no more drive-by shootings committed by street gangsters. This was largely misinterpreted by the media as a truce. In fact, it was not a truce. It was anything but a truce. It was basically a change in the rules of engagement. Prior to that time, innocent kids and innocent women and flat innocent individuals were being killed accidentally by drive-by shootings. Drive-by shootings naturally attracted law enforcement attention. Law enforcement attention hurt the business of selling drugs and making money. So one of the issues that they discussed, that they issued orders that there would be no more drive-by shootings. Didn't mean there would be no more shootings. They said from now on, if there's any business to be conducted that involves guns and firearms, you're going to be doing it up close and personal to reduce the chances of innocents getting killed. The second item on the agenda was that from that day on, all Hispanic street gangs were to call themselves Sureños or South Siders. It's the Spanish word for Southern, or Sureño. And a Sureño basically was a gang. Sureños would be gangs who were swore their allegiance to the Mexican Mafia. They were told that from now on, anything we do, anything we say, you have to do. And the third item on the agenda was taxation. From that day on, every street gang that was involved in the selling of drugs or making money had to pay a certain tax, anywhere between 10 and 30% of their total drug retail sales to the Mexican Mafia. When you scale that up throughout all of Southern California, and you realize that there may be somewhere between 100 and 120,000 gang members, let's say from the Bakersfield down to the Mexican border, that's a tremendous amount of money that the Mexican Mafia started making. It's interesting that the reaction from the press and the media was at best muted. There was virtually no coverage on it. They talked about it, and a few editorials were written about it, but most of the editorials got it wrong. They misinterpreted this no drive-by initiative as a truce. And like I said, it wasn't a truce. It was a change in the rules of engagement. This power projection from the prison to the street, again, is something that has never happened before. And there are various mechanisms by which the Mexican Mafia, there's only about 250 to 300 members in the California prison system, locked up in prison, and on the street. Yet, those 250 individuals control an army of neighborhood militias, which we call street gangs, Hispanic street gangs. And they are, in fact, soldiers. They refer to themselves as soldados, soldiers, and they're more than happy to do the bidding of the Mexican Mafia. Very often, you'll read press reports about another senseless shooting that happened somewhere in the city. They'll find some 17-year-old kid dead on the street for no apparent reason. And a lot of the times, these homicides aren't solved. Sometimes they are solved. The term senseless really is it's easy shorthand for things that the press doesn't fully understand. Very often these so-called senseless shootings are the result of a Mexican Mafia assassination. In the book I described a kid, 16 years old, who ran afoul of a Mexican Mafia brother in his neighborhood, a young kid by the name of Randy Morales. Randy was assassinated specifically because he ran afoul of a Mexican Mafia member. Unwittingly, he didn't even know what he was getting himself into. But the press in that one, again, gave it maybe 15 lines in the newspapers, and again, it was a senseless killing. Well, it wasn't until more than 11 years later that the homicide was actually solved and actually attributed to the Mexican Mafia. So when you read stories in the paper about some senseless killing that happened somewhere, you may never know, we may never know, and even law enforcement may never know exactly the motivations behind that homicide. In this particular case, it took 11 years for Randy Morales' murder to be attributed as an assassination ordered by a Mexican Mafia member.